studying the topic 8051 timers and serial port in this module. And we will quickly go through the syllabus of this particular module, that is module 4. You can see this contains 8051 timers and counters and the operation of assembly language programming to generate a pulse using mode 1 and a square wave using mode 2 on a port pin. So we will in detail we will study the timer and counter operation here, and also we will be understanding how to use this timer or counter to generate a pulse using mode 1, a pulse in the sense a single pulse like this, and to generate a square wave using mode 2. And later, second portion of the syllabus is 8051 serial communication. So we will study the basics of the serial communication and a particular protocol called RS-232 protocol. And we will also see a hardware 9-pin RS-232 signals. And also we will understand how to write simple programs in assembly and C to transmit a message or receive a message serially. So what is 8051 timer? So this is the question. So let me see. 8051 has got basically two timers. Okay. So we are now talking about the simple, the classic 8051 architecture. Okay. So it has two timers. Remember, we will be using the term either timer or counter simultaneously, because it's the same thing. A timer or a counter is the same thing. I will tell you why, when we can call it as a timer or when we can call it as a counter. That I will tell you. When you say it is used to generate a time delay, we can configure this timer to count internal pulses. So when you say generating a delay means we are configuring the timer to count internal pulses. But the same timer, if it is counting external pulses, instead of counting internal pulses, if it count external pulses, the term timer refers to a situation where the counting of internal pulses happens, and the term counter refers to a situation where the counting is happening for external pulses. So this is the only difference. Okay. So when I say timers to generate a time delay means it is counting internal pulses, and event counters to count events happening outside the microcontroller means it is counting external pulses. So remember, there are two timers, timer 0 and timer 1, and the function of this timer is to act as a timer or as a counter. Whenever you talk about a timer or a counter, so let me call it as timer only. So there are three registers you must remember. Three registers. One is the timer register itself. Timer register itself. This is a 16-bit register. Okay. Okay. This timer register basically hold the timing value. I will right now say timing value, but it will not convey you correctly at this point of time. But I am just telling, I will explain what is this timing value later. So, but you understand, this will generally hold the timing value. Okay. This is about the timer register. So this is number 1. Okay. The second register you must remember is, that is TMOD register. TMOD. TMOD register. And remember, this is timer mode. Okay. So this will give you what is the kind of operations and some sort of controls to this timer. Remember, this is also an 8-bit register. This is a 8-bit register. Okay. Then the third thing is called TCON register. TCON register. Okay. So TCON register means timer control. TCON stands for timer control register, and this is also 8-bit register. So what is my point is here is, when you talk about a timer or a counter, basically there are 3 registers which we need to be aware of. The first one is the timer register, which is a 16-bit register which hold the count value or timing value. The second one is the TMOD register, timer mode register. This is an SFR, special function register. Okay, and this TMOD register will hold the timer mode. We will explain what exactly this timer mode and certain control functions of this timer. But remember, there is a TMOD register. Similarly, we have another special function register, that is TCON register. So there are 3 registers associated with any timers. Remember, even though 8051 has a 8-bit architecture, these timers are basically 16-bit timers. Since there are no 16-bit registers to take care of this, we will be using 2 8-bit registers to get the 16-bit or to realize the 16-bit timer. When you say there are 16-bit timers, if you look at this this entire thing, if you see this blue thing, you can see here TH0 is there and TL0 is there. So this corresponds to timer 0 or T0. So T0 is how many bit? T0 is a 16-bit timer, but since 16-bit cannot be realized directly, we will divide this 16-bit into the higher byte of T0, that is TH0, and the lower byte of T0, this is 8-bit, and lower byte of T0 is TL0, that's also 8-bit. D7, so up to D7, this constitutes timer 0 lower byte, and D8 to D15 constitutes the timer 0 upper byte. Okay, so together it is a 16-bit timer. Similarly for timer 1 also. So this is the timer 1. Okay, if I wanted to store some data to this, for example, a timer 0, move TL0. TL0 is an 8-bit register, you know that, right? What we are moving is an 8-bit data. So 4F is an 8-bit data. So for 8-bit data, we are moving to an 8-bit register. So TL0, that means this part will store 4F, whereas after this, we can write maybe move TH0, comma, hash 7CH. Something like this, if you write it here, then at this location, we will be getting 7C, and at this location, we will be getting, we can store 4F. So 7C and 4, this is how we will be loading the data to the timer register. Now we will go to the second register. So what is the second register? It is TMOD. So remember, timer register is over. Now we are talking about TMOD register. Okay. So now TMOD register, if you look at the structure, as I told you that it is an 8-bit register. So the content of this 8-bit registers are, we can see as you can see here, it has a bit called gate, you can see. Then we have another thing called counter / timer. Then we have 2 bits reserved for the mode of the timer. And the same thing is duplicated here also. Upper nibble is for timer 1 and lower nibble is for timer 0. And if the contents are just duplicated, okay? Gate is there, counter timer is there, counter timer is there, M0 and M1, M0 and M1. So now coming to the timer mode register, what we will be seeing here is, as I told you that we have various bits here like gate, counter timer, and mode. Okay, so I will just explain what are these things, each thing. So what is gate? I will just take you to a diagram. Okay, this diagram is called timer counter control logic. You can see a diagram here. If you can see this diagram, see, just to have a very brief idea about what this diagram is all about. Now, you can just look at this entire circuitry. It's a representation here. Okay. this is going to, I'm just talking about the output set. This is going to the timer stages it is telling. Okay, let us forget about this, what is this timer stages. But in order for something to go to timer stages, we need to have a master control, and that master control is the switch. Okay, if that part is clear. So there is a master control, which is the switch. Now this master control is controlled by basically three things. One is TR, gate, and IND0. So remember, we have a master control for something to go to the timer stages. Let us not worry what is going to the timer stages and all, okay? But this master control is controlled by three things. One is TR. I will tell you what is TR later. TR, that is this one. And the second one is gate. And the third one is INT 0 or 1. INDX, I will write it here. Okay? Is that making sense? So TR, INDX, and gate. Okay? Now, in our previous example, in the previous explanation, if you go back to the previous slide, here, what is gate? It is written. Okay? Gate, when set, the timer is enabled only while INTX is high and TR control is set. When set. Okay? Let us go back to the diagram. Okay? So understand this line first. If this gate is 1, when gate is 1, okay, this counter or timer will enable only if INTX is 1 or TR is 1. Okay? That means if gate is 1, INT 0 or 1, INTX has to be 1, and TR 0 or 1, TR also has to be 1. That means if this is 1, both these inputs must be 1. Whether it is correct or not, let us see. We'll come back here. Look here. When gate is 1, okay, when gate is 1, naturally what happens? This side it will become 0. Output of this NOT gate will become 0. And this is an OR gate, right? This is an OR gate. Since this output is 0, you know very well that this output will be 1 provided INT0 is 1. So that means for this output to be 1, your INT0 must be 1. Correct? And now this is 1. Now for this gate control, the master control of this gate, for this to be 1, what is the one more condition? That is, this input also should be 1. Or TR also should be 1. So that means if gate is 1, then both INTX and TR should be 1 in order to start the timer or counter operation. So it is basically a controlled signal to start the timing or counting operation. So that's the first part. There is one more possibility for the gate, right? What is that? When gate is 0. If gate is 0, what happens? If gate is 0, okay, this output of this NOT gate will be 1. Okay, if this output is 1, then irrespective of this INT0 status, whether, so now what is the condition? Gate is 1. Okay, now INTX, I don't care. It can be 1 or 0. Okay, don't care. So irrespective of INT0 or 1 status, the output of this AND gate, output of this AND gate will be 1 provided the timer 1 is, provided the TR is 1. Okay, so if gate is enabled, then INTX is required to be 1. If gate is disabled, or if the gate is 0, sorry, this is actually 0, right? If the gate is 0, then the INTX is to be discarded. So there is no priority or there is no value for this INDX content. Okay, but in both the cases you look, the timer run bit. TR is called timer run. In both the cases, timer run bit has to be 1. So this is the functionality of the gate. Okay. So now we will go back. Gate is just a control over the interrupt or INT pin. INT is an external input. Okay. So then we have the next control bit, which is called CT. Okay, CT, which is here. So this is called counter or timer. Okay. So as I told you that this timer can be simultaneously called either counting operation or timing operation. So when I say it is a counter, it will be counting the external pulses. So this is basically C T bar. Okay, since T bar is not here, so it is C T bar. Okay, so if this C slash T bar, okay, if this is 1, it is a counter. Okay, or if this is 0, means it is a timer. So what's the difference between counter and timer? The counter is it counts the external pulses. I told you in the first slide. And the timer means it counts the internal pulses. So this is the only difference. Okay. So counter slash timer. So whether it is counting external pulses or internal pulses is determined by the value in this bit position CT. Okay. And then we have 2 bits M1 and M0. So this M1 and M0 determines what mode this timer should work. Okay. So since there are 2 bits M1 and M0, so there are 4 possible combinations. So those 4 possible combinations are written here. The M0, mod 0, M1, M0. If it is 0, so it is mod 0, 0, 1, mod 1, then mod 2, and mod 3. So in mod 0, it is called a 13-bit timer, and mod 1 is a 16-bit timer. Mod 2 is an 8-bit but auto reload, and mod 3 is a split timer. So these are the 4 different. To summarize today's section, we have seen that 8051 has got 2 timers, and these timers are used for 2 purposes. One is to generate a delay or counting the internal pulse, and to count the external events. So this is the purpose of this timer. And there are both the timers are 16-bit timers, and the timers have basically 3 registers associated with that. The first one is the timer register T0 or T1, and then we have a TMOD register as well as TCON register. So the content of TMOD register is given here.